Dr. Hana Kim pressed her eye against the microscope and felt her world change forever. The alien cell sample floating in the blue solution was not what it seemed. For 3 months, she had been studying tissue samples from the Kepler 442b expedition. The planet had been dead when humans arrived, but something was wrong with how it died. The cells showed signs of deliberate poisoning. Not natural death, not disease, not even war. Someone had killed an entire world on purpose. Hana sat back in her chair and stared at the data on her computer screen. The research station orbited Earth quietly, spinning slowly as it had for the past 5 years. Outside the thick windows, Earth looked peaceful and blue. But Hana knew that peace might not last much longer. She had found proof that someone in the galaxy was murdering entire species before they could reach the stars. "Dr. Kim?" Mina Lee's voice came through the intercom. "The morning reports are ready." "Send them to my office," Hana replied. She needed to think. Mina was the station's chief engineer, a small woman with quick hands and a sharp mind. She had designed most of the station's systems herself, always making them better than the original plans. Hana trusted her completely. June Park knocked on the lab door and entered without waiting for permission. As head of security, he had that right. June was tall and broad, with scars on his hands from his time in the Earth Defense Force. He looked worried. "We picked up something strange on the long-range sensors," he said. 3 ships, moving fast toward our position. They're trying to hide, but Tae caught their heat signatures. Tae Yoon was their communications officer, the best listener Hana had ever met. If Tae said something was coming, something was definitely coming. "How long do we have?" Hana asked. 6 hours, maybe 7. Hana looked at her research data again. The timing was not a coincidence. Someone knew what she had found. "June, I need you to see something." She showed him the microscope. "Look at this cell sample." June bent down and looked through the eyepiece. He was not a scientist, but he understood death when he saw it. This was murdered. An entire planet. Billions of living things, all killed by the same poison. Hana pulled up more data on her screen. "I found traces of the same chemical compound in samples from 4 other dead worlds. All of them died right before they developed space travel." June's face went hard. "Someone is cleaning house, and now they know I found out." The intercom crackled. "Dr. Kim, this is Tae. You need to hear this." Tae's voice was tight with worry. Hana pressed the comm button. "What is it?" "I broke the encryption on one of those ships. They're not human, and they're talking about a target on this station." Hana felt cold. "What kind of target?" "You, Dr. Kim. They want you dead." June was already moving toward the door. "I'm calling a station alert." "Wait." Hana grabbed his arm. "If we run now, they'll just follow us to Earth, and they'll know we're afraid. You want to stay and fight aliens? 3 ships worth of them?" Hana smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "I want to send a message." 2 hours later, the station looked exactly the same from the outside, but inside everything had changed. Mina had turned the research labs into weapons. The particle accelerators that Hana used to study tiny pieces of matter could now fire streams of energy that would cut through ship hulls like paper. The docking bay doors had been rigged with explosive charges. The life support systems had been modified to create toxic gas clouds. Even the coffee machine in the break room had been turned into a small bomb. June stood in the security center, watching the 3 alien ships approach. They were beautiful in their own way, long and curved like sea creatures, but they were coming to kill his friend, and that made them ugly to him. "Tae, are you recording everything?" he asked. "Every word, every image," Tae replied from the communications center. "If we don't make it, at least Earth will know what happened." The alien ships reached the station and attached themselves to the docking ports. June could hear the sounds of cutting tools as they forced their way through the outer doors. "Here, they come," Mina said over the comm. She was hiding in engineering, her finger on the trigger for 6 traps. The first alien through the door was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin like black metal. It carried a weapon that hummed with energy. Behind it came 5 more, each from a different species. They moved like professionals, checking corners and watching for threats. They did not find any threats. They found hell. Mina triggered the first trap when the aliens reached the main corridor. The floor panels exploded upward, filling the air with sharp metal pieces. 2 aliens fell immediately, their strange blood painting the walls. The survivors tried to advance, but June was waiting for them. His rifle fired explosive rounds that he had made himself. Each shot was loud enough to hurt human ears. The aliens had better hearing, which made it worse for them. One alien made it to the lab where Hana was waiting. It was fast and smart, avoiding most of the traps, but it did not expect to find the target holding a plasma cutter like a sword. "You want to kill me?" Hana asked, her voice calm. "You should have brought more friends." The alien raised its weapon, but Hana was faster. The plasma cutter sliced through the alien's gun, then through the alien itself. It fell to the floor in 2 pieces. 20 minutes after the attack began, it was over. 6 alien assassins lay dead throughout the station. June had a cut on his forehead from flying metal. Mina had burns on her hands from an overloaded power coupling. Hana was covered in alien blood, but she was smiling. "Tay, did you get all of that recorded?" she asked. "Every second. And I managed to crack their ship computers before their systems locked down. Dr. Kim, you need to see this." Tay's voice was full of fear and wonder. "These weren't just random assassins. They were sent by something called the Trilak Empire, and according to their mission files, this was just the first wave." Hana wiped alien blood from her face and looked out at Earth below. Her home world looked so peaceful, so innocent. But innocence was about to end. "How many more waves are coming?" "The files mention at least 3 more groups, each one bigger than the last." June reloaded his rifle and checked the station's defenses. "Then we better get ready to send another message." Hana nodded and turned back to her research. She had work to do. The galaxy had sent killers to stop her from revealing the truth about the poisoned worlds. But the truth was bigger than just those dead planets. The truth was that someone out there was afraid of what humanity might become, and now humanity was about to show them exactly what they should be afraid of. The message from the Trilak Empire arrived 3 days after the first attack. Tai Yun decoded it in less than an hour, his fingers flying over the keyboard as alien symbols turned into words that made everyone's blood run cold. "They're hiring the Nexus Syndicate," Tay announced over the station's intercom. "Professional killers from 12 different species, led by someone called Commander Velcris." Hana Kim stopped her work and looked up from the microscope where she had been studying the dead assassins. Their blood contained traces of genetic modifications that made them faster and stronger than normal. But it had not been enough to save them. "How long until they arrive?" she asked. "The message is 2 days old. Could be any time now." June Park was already suiting up in the armory when Hana found him. He was checking his weapons and counting ammunition like a man preparing for war. "We can't fight an entire mercenary army," he said without looking up. "Not just the 4 of us." "Then we won't fight them alone." Hana activated her personal communicator and sent a coded message to Earth. The reply came back in minutes, and when she read it, she smiled for the first time in days. Admiral Dae Kim looked exactly like his sister, except taller and with more scars. He stood on the bridge of the battleship Hidden Thunder, watching the reports from his sister's station scroll across his screens. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving the activation codes from Earth Command." Day nodded. "Send the signal to all ships. Operation Lighthouse is now active." Across Earth's solar system, things that looked like asteroids began to move. Satellites that had been broadcasting weather data for years suddenly armed themselves with weapons. Mining stations on distant moons revealed hidden launch bays full of fighter ships. For 20 years, Earth had been preparing for this moment. Every space program, every commercial satellite, every scientific mission had carried hidden weapons and defensive systems. The galaxy thought humanity was still trapped on one world, taking their first baby steps into space. They were wrong. Dr. Jin Choi had spent his entire career studying alien technology. Every crashed probe, every damaged ship, every piece of debris that had accidentally fallen to Earth had passed through his laboratory. He had learned their secrets and made them better. "The quantum disruption field is ready," he reported to Admiral Kim over a secure channel. "Any ship using faster-than-light travel within 1 light year of Earth will be forced back into normal space." Range? The entire solar system, plus a buffer zone. Nothing gets away, and nothing gets in without us knowing about it. Mina Lee was making final adjustments to the research station's new defenses when the long-range sensors detected 12 ships approaching from different directions. Each ship was from a different species, and each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "They're good," she admitted to June over the comm. "Approaching from multiple vectors, different speeds, trying to split our attention." "How much time?" 2 hours for the fastest ship, 6 hours for the slowest. They want to arrive together for a coordinated attack. June studied the tactical display and smiled grimly. "Then let's give them a coordination they won't expect." The first Nexus ship to reach Earth's space was a sleek Predator vessel crewed by reptilian hunters from the Vorthak system. They specialized in silent kills and had never failed a mission. They were scanning for the research station when space around them suddenly filled with light. Hidden weapons platforms that had been drifting like debris opened fire from 6 directions at once. The Vorthak ship tried to escape, but its faster-than-light drive refused to activate. "What's happening?" the captain screamed as his ship's hull began to crack under the assault. His answer came in the form of Admiral Kim's voice, broadcast on all frequencies. "Welcome to Earth space. You are now prisoners of humanity. Surrender your ship, or be destroyed." The Vorthak captain chose to fight. It was the last choice he ever made. Commander Velkris watched his lead ship die on his screens and felt something he had not experienced in 50 years of warfare: surprise. The humans were supposed to be primitives, barely capable of spaceflight. All ships abort the mission and retreat to... His words were cut off as more human ships decloaked around his fleet. They had been hiding behind Earth's moon, using its gravity to mask their presence. Now they emerged like wolves surrounding prey. "This is Admiral Dae Kim of the Earth Defense Force," came the voice over the comm. "You came here to kill my sister. That was a mistake." Velkris had fought in 100 battles across 50 star systems. He had seen weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop supernovas. But he had never seen anything like what the humans unleashed. The human ships fired weapons that bent space itself, twisting his vessels into impossible shapes. They used gravity as a weapon, creating tiny black holes that swallowed his missiles before they could reach their targets. They turned his own ship's engines against him, making them overload in ways that should have been impossible. "Impossible," Velkris whispered as his flagship's systems failed one by one. "They're using our own technology against us." "Better than your technology," Admiral Kim replied. "We've had 20 years to improve it." Dr. Jin Choi watched the battle from his laboratory on Earth's surface. Every shot fired, every shield activated, every system that failed was being recorded and analyzed by his computers. He was learning from the aliens even as his people destroyed them. "Fascinating," he murmured as one enemy ship tried to escape using a dimension-folding drive. "They're using quantum mechanics to hide in folded space." He pressed a button on his control panel. The escaping ship suddenly appeared back in normal space, its crew screaming as their vessel was turned inside out by the dimensional stress. "Note: to self," Jin said into his recorder. "Add dimensional anchors to all defensive platforms." On the research station, Hana Kim watched the battle through the observation windows. Explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks as her brother's fleet tore apart the Nexus Syndicate ships one by one. 12 ships, June said, standing beside her. "Professional killers from the best mercenary organization in the galaxy, and we just destroyed them without losing a single vessel." "The galaxy will notice," Tay warned from his communication post. This wasn't a secret probe or a small raiding party. This was a major mercenary operation. When they don't report back... "Good," Hana said firmly. "I want them to notice." She turned to her brother's image on the main screen. Day looked tired but satisfied, like a man who had just finished a job he had been preparing for his entire life. "Brother," she said, "I need you to send a message to Earth Command. Tell them it's time for Phase 2. "What's Phase 2? Mina asked. Hana's smile was sharp as a blade. "The galaxy sent professional killers to murder one human scientist. Now Earth is going to show them what professional killers actually look like." Admiral Kim nodded to his sister. "Message sent. Earth Command confirms. Operation Lighthouse Phase 2 is authorized." Across human space, more hidden ships began to power up their engines. But these were not defensive vessels. These were ships, built for one purpose, to carry the war to the enemy. The galaxy had made a mistake. They had threatened Earth's children, and now Earth was going to make them regret it. Commander Velcris's final transmission before his ship exploded was broadcast across the galaxy on all mercenary frequencies. The humans, they were ready for us. This wasn't primitive. This was a trap. They wanted us to come. The message reached the Trilak Empire 6 hours later. When Grand Admiral Zethros read it, he felt something cold settle in his stomach. "How many ships did we lose?" he asked his aide. "All of them, sir. 12 ships, 300 of the galaxy's best killers. Total annihilation." Zethros stared out at the stars and realized that humanity was not going to be the easy target they had expected. "Prepare the Third Fleet," he ordered, "and send word to the High Council. We're going to need more ships." Dr. Yuna Seo had been waiting her entire career for this moment. As Earth's top xenopsychologist, she had studied alien minds from a distance, learning their languages and trying to understand how different species thought. Now she had 3 living aliens sitting in cells on Earth's most secure military base, and she could finally ask them questions directly. The first prisoner was a Vorthak warrior, 7 feet tall with scales like black armor. The second was a Nexus technician, small and quick with 6 arms and compound eyes. The third was the most interesting, a Trilak officer who had been commanding one of the mercenary ships. "Tell me about your empire," Yuna said to the Trilak through the cell's force field. She spoke in perfect Trilak, which made the alien's eyes widen in surprise. "You should not know our language," the officer said. His name was Kethalar, and he wore the marks of high rank on his uniform. "We know many things," Yuna replied calmly. "We know you hired the Nexus Syndicate to kill Dr. Hana Kim. We know you have been poisoning worlds before their species can reach the stars. What we want to know is why." Kethalar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "You think you understand the galaxy, little human? You know nothing." Yuna activated a holographic display that showed the poisoned worlds Hana had discovered. "We know. You murdered billions of innocent people. We know you did it to prevent them from developing space travel. What we want to know is what you're so afraid of." The Trilak's laughter died. "You found the dead worlds?" "All 23 of them. And we know there are more." Kethalar was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, full of something that might have been fear. "Do you know where your star system is located?" Yuna frowned. "What does that have to do with anything? Your sun sits at the center of a stellar nursery. In 10,000 years, maybe 20,000, this region of space will birth 100 new stars. Around those stars will form planets, habitable planets." The alien stood up and pressed his hands against the force field. "The species that controls this region when those worlds are born will rule half the galaxy. That is why you must die. That is why everyone who might challenge us must die." Yuna felt her blood turn cold. "You're committing genocide to steal planets that don't even exist yet. The Trilak Empire has ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. We will rule it for 50,000 more, but only if we eliminate threats before they become dangerous." "And you saw humanity as a threat?" Kethalar's laugh returned, but now it sounded bitter. "We saw you as insects. That was our mistake." 3 hours later, Yuna stood in Earth's Global Defense Command Center, presenting her findings to the world's leaders. President Chen and Premier Volkov listened in silence as she explained what the Trilak Empire had done and why they had done it. "Genocide," Ambassador Han Zheng said quietly. "They're committing genocide across the galaxy to maintain their power. And now they want to commit genocide on us," General Morrison added. "How many more attacks should we expect?" Admiral Dae Kim's image appeared on the main screen, transmitted from his flagship in orbit. "Intelligence reports suggest they're massing. A battle fleet. 300 ships, maybe more. This isn't assassination anymore. This is war." President Chen looked around the room at Earth's most powerful leaders. "Options? We can run," suggested Premier Volkov. "Load our best people onto ships and flee to another star system." "They'll just follow us," Admiral Kim said. "And they'll take Earth anyway." "We can hide," offered General Morrison. Use our defensive systems to make Earth too expensive to attack. They'll just wait, Hyun said. Blockade the system until we run out of resources. President Chen turned to Yuna. You've studied their psychology. What do they fear most? Yuna thought about her conversations with the prisoners. Losing control. They've built their entire civilization on the idea that they are the dominant species. They fear anything that might challenge that belief. Then let's give them something to fear, Hyun said quietly. The message that Earth sent to the galaxy was not what anyone expected. Instead of surrender or defiance, it was an offer of truth. Hyun had worked for 3 days crafting the perfect words. The message was broadcast on every communication frequency known to galactic civilization, repeated in 50 different languages, and sent to every inhabited world in the galaxy. People of the galaxy, the message began. My name is Hyun Jang, and I speak for the species called humanity. We are new to the stars, and we have learned terrible things about the civilization you have built. The message included all of Hana's research on the poisoned worlds. It showed the evidence of deliberate genocide, the patterns of murder that stretched across thousands of years. It named the Trilak Empire as the killers and explained their motives. For 50,000 years, Hyun's voice continued, the Trilak Empire has murdered any species that might challenge their rule. They have committed genocide on a scale that defies imagination. They call it maintaining order. We call it evil. But the most shocking part of the message came at the end. The Trilak Empire has now sent assassins to kill our scientists and conquer our world. They believe we are weak because we are young. They believe we are helpless because we are few. They are wrong on both counts. The message then showed footage from the battles above Earth, alien ships being destroyed by human weapons, professional killers being outwitted and outfought by humans they had underestimated. The Trilak Empire sent assassins to kill one human scientist, Hyun said, as the footage showed Hana Kim standing over the body of her would-be killer. We destroyed them all. They sent professional mercenaries to destroy our world. We turned them to dust. The message paused, and when it resumed, Hyun's voice was hard as steel. Now they are sending a battle fleet to finish what their assassins could not. We have a message for that fleet, and for the empire that sent it. You picked the wrong species to hunt. The final part of the message was a list of demands. The Trilak Empire would cease all genocide operations immediately. They would release all enslaved species. They would submit to a galactic court for judgment of their crimes. If you refuse these demands, Hyun concluded, then humanity will come for you. We are 4 billion strong, and we remember everything. Every murdered world, every dead species, every act of cruelty you have committed, and we will make you answer for all of it. The message ended with coordinates for the poison worlds and detailed evidence of Trilak crimes. Within hours, it was being broadcast by rebel groups across the galaxy. On the aquatic world of Morvana, the fish-like Morvani people read the message and remembered their cousins on Morvana 7 who had died of mysterious plague just as they were building their first starships. On the crystal planet Nethek, the crystalline beings shared the message through their psychic network and recalled the mining accident that had killed their sister world's entire population just as they were developing faster-than-light travel. On 100 other worlds, species that had lost relatives to natural disasters suddenly understood that they had been murdered. The galaxy began to wake up. In the Trilak capital, Grand Admiral Zethros read the human message and felt his empire beginning to crack. Rebellions were starting on 17 worlds. 3 client species had declared independence. The Galactic Trade Council was demanding an investigation. How did they get all this information? He demanded of his intelligence chief. Unknown, sir. But it's accurate. Every detail, every world, every operation. They know everything. Zethros stared at the battle plan for Earth's conquest. 300 ships, enough firepower to sterilize a planet's surface. It should have been overwhelming force against a primitive species. But the humans had already destroyed 24 ships without losing one of their own. They had turned the galaxy against the Empire with a single message. They had made the Trilak Empire look weak. Sir, his aide said quietly, some of the fleet commanders are asking if we should reconsider the attack. Zethros turned to look at him, and the aide stepped back in fear. "We are the Trilak Empire," Zethros said coldly. "We do not retreat from insects. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure. We will crush these humans and broadcast their deaths to every world that received their message." But as he spoke, Zethros wondered if the humans might have more surprises waiting for them. On Earth, President Chen read the intelligence reports about the approaching Trilak fleet and nodded grimly. "They took the bait," he said to his advisors. "They're coming with everything they have." "Are we ready?" General Morrison asked. Chen looked up at the stars through his office window. "We've been ready for 20 years. Now we find out if it was enough." The first response to Earth's message came from the water world of Morvana. The signal was weak and carefully hidden, but Tai Yun caught it on the research station's deep space receivers. "Dr. Kim," he called excitedly to Hana, "you need to hear this." The message was in an ancient form of galactic trade language, the kind used by smugglers and rebels who didn't want to be overheard. When Tai decoded it, the words made everyone on the station stop what they were doing. "Human friends," the message began, "we are the Morvani deep swimmers. Your truth song reaches us in the dark waters. We know the Trilak poison dealers. They killed our spawn brothers on Morvana 7 with false sickness. We remember. We help." More messages followed over the next few days. The crystal beings of Nethek sent mathematical equations that somehow conveyed both greeting and alliance. A species called the Karathi sent star charts showing hidden routes through Trilak space. The insectoid Veltar offered their knowledge of Trilak ship weaknesses. General Q. Lee stood in Earth's war room, studying the flood of intelligence that was pouring in from across the galaxy. As Earth's master tactician, he had spent years planning for a war against a superior enemy. Now he was planning for something much more complex, a galactic revolution. 57 species have made contact, he reported to the assembled military leaders. 43 are offering direct assistance. The others are providing intelligence about Trilak forces and movements. Admiral Kim's image appeared on the main screen. "What kind of assistance?" "The Morvani are sending a fleet of their bioships, living vessels that can repair themselves and adapt to enemy weapons. The Nethek are providing crystal matrix computers that think faster than anything the Trilaks have. And the Karathi..." Q smiled grimly. "The Karathi have been building weapons in secret for 200 years. President Chen leaned forward. "How many ships total?" "Unknown. These species have been hiding their true capabilities for centuries. The Trilaks think they have 6 Morvani vessels in their navy. Actually, the Morvani have over 300 ships hidden in the deep ocean trenches of their world. And they're all willing to fight?" Q nodded. "More than willing. They're eager. Apparently, the galaxy has been waiting for someone to stand up to the Trilak Empire. We just gave them permission to stop being afraid." Major Suhan sat in a bunker deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards as she worked her way through Trilak computer networks. As Earth's top intelligence specialist, she had been tasked with the impossible: infiltrate an alien empire's most secure systems. She was succeeding beyond anyone's wildest dreams. "The Trilaks have terrible computer security," she reported to General Morrison over an encrypted channel. "They're so used to being the dominant species that they never expected anyone to challenge them digitally." "What have you found?" "Everything. Fleet movements, resource allocations, planet killer locations. General, they have a weapon aimed at our sun." Morrison's face went pale on the screen. "What kind of weapon?" "Something called a stellar disruptor. It's designed to make stars go supernova. They built it to use on any species that gets too dangerous to handle with conventional forces." "Where is it?" "Mobile platform. Currently positioned 3 light years from Earth. It's charging up for a firing sequence that will complete in 72 hours. Morrison was quiet for a moment. "Can you stop it?" Sue smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "General, I've been inside their systems for 6 hours. I'm not just stopping their weapon. I'm taking control of it." The Trilak battle fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly when their computers predicted. 300 ships strong, carrying enough firepower to glass entire continents. Grand Admiral Zethros stood on the bridge of his flagship and prepared to deliver humanity's death sentence. Long-range sensors show minimal activity, his tactical officer reported. A few dozen ships in orbit around their homeworld. Their defensive satellites appear to be civilian communication arrays. Just as our intelligence predicted, Zethros said with satisfaction. They used up their hidden forces defeating the Nexus. Syndicate, now they're defenseless. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human homeworld. Put it through. Admiral Day Kim's face appeared on the main screen, and Zethros was surprised by how calm the human looked. Grand Admiral Zethros, I am Admiral Kim of the Earth Defense Force. I'm calling to give you one chance to surrender. Zethros laughed. You want us to surrender? You have 30 ships. We have 300. Actually, Admiral Kim said mildly, we have more than 30 ships. The space around the Trilak fleet suddenly filled with vessels that had not been there a moment before. Hundreds of ships decloaked at once, surrounding the Empire fleet in a massive sphere. But these were not human ships. The Morvani bioships looked like sea creatures made of metal and light, their hulls rippling with bioluminescent patterns. The Nethek crystal ships were geometric works of art that bent light around themselves like living prisms. The Karathi vessels were angular and brutal, covered in weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. What you see around you, Admiral, Kim continued, are the representatives of 43 species that your empire has oppressed for thousands of years. They've been waiting for this moment. Zethros felt his confidence cracking. This is impossible. Our intelligence reports showed no evidence of a galactic alliance. Your intelligence was looking at what we wanted you to see, Admiral Kim replied. Did you really think you were the only ones capable of deception? The first shots came from the Karathi ships, beams of pure energy that sliced through Trilak shields like they weren't there. The Morvani vessels released clouds of living metal that ate through ship hulls and disabled engines. The Nethek ships fired crystal projectiles that passed through matter and disrupted the atomic structure of anything they touched. But the most devastating attacks came from the human ships themselves. Dr. Jin Choi had spent 20 years studying Trilak technology, and he had learned all its weaknesses. Fire the quantum disruptors, Admiral Kim ordered. Invisible waves of energy swept through the Trilak fleet, and every ship found its faster-than-light drive failing at once. They were trapped in normal space, unable to escape or call for reinforcements. Now the gravity mines. Spheres of twisted space-time appeared throughout the Trilak formation, creating artificial gravity wells that pulled ships off course and into each other. The carefully organized battle fleet became a chaotic mess of colliding vessels. Phase 3, Admiral Kim said calmly. Target their command ship. Zethros watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart by weapons he didn't understand, used by species he had thought were defeated long ago. This is not possible, he whispered. Surrender your fleet, Admiral Kim's voice came over the comm, and we will spare the lives of your crews. Never, Zethros shouted. The Trilak Empire does not surrender to inferior species. Then you will die with your empire, Admiral Kim replied, and cut the transmission. The final assault lasted only minutes. The combined alien fleet focused their fire on the Trilak flagship, overwhelming its shields and systematically destroying its weapons. When the ship's life support began to fail, Zethros finally understood that his empire's time was over. Sir, his communications officer said weakly, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 of our ships. Zethros looked around his ruined bridge and realized he had lost more than a battle. He had lost the aura of invincibility that had kept the Trilak Empire in power for 50,000 years. Send a message to all ships, he said quietly. Surrender to the Alliance forces. Live to fight another day. But even as he gave the order, Zethros knew there would be no other day for the empire he had served his entire life. On Earth, General Q Lee watched the battle reports come in and allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction. The Hydra Protocol was working perfectly. Every Trilak attack had been met with 10 coordinated responses from different species. Every Empire stronghold in this sector of the galaxy was under simultaneous assault. Phase 4 is complete, he reported to President Chen. The Trilak Third Fleet has surrendered. Their stellar disruptor has been captured by Major Hand's infiltration program, and rebellion is spreading across 17 Empire worlds. Casualties? Minimal on our side. The Alliance species knew exactly how to fight Trilak forces. They've been planning this for centuries. President Chen nodded and looked up at the stars. Then it's time for Phase 5. What's Phase 5? General Morrison asked. Chen's smile was cold as space. We take the war to the Trilak homeworld. It's time to end an empire. Dr. Bo Yoon had been waiting 20 years to press the button that would change everything. As Earth's chief artificial intelligence researcher, he had built something that the galaxy had never seen before, a network of quantum-linked AI systems hidden inside every piece of human technology that had left Earth. Project Prometheus is ready for activation, he announced to the war room. Every satellite, every probe, every trade good that humanity has sent into space over the past 2 decades contains a dormant AI node. When I activate the network, we'll have backdoor access to technology on over 400 worlds. President Chen studied the global map showing the extent of human technology distribution. It was much larger than anyone had realized. How is that possible? We've only been trading with alien species for 15 years. Human electronics are cheap and reliable, Bo explained. Alien merchants have been buying our components and using them in their own devices for decades. They never bothered to scan them deeply enough to find the hidden circuits. General Morrison leaned forward. What kind of access are we talking about? Bo's smile was like a predator showing its teeth. Everything. Communication networks, power grids, defense systems, even life support on some stations. The Trilaks have been using human-made computer chips in their military hardware for 5 years. Can you take control of their fleet? Already have. I'm just waiting for the right moment to use it. Major Nari Wu stood on the bridge of the first human ship designed specifically for interstellar warfare. The Strike Force Vengeance was sleek and deadly, built using technology stolen from a dozen different alien species and improved by human engineers. Around her, 11 more ships waited in formation. Each one was crewed by humans who had volunteered for a mission that might be a one-way trip. They were going to strike at the heart of the Trilak Empire while the galaxy watched. All ships report ready, her tactical officer announced. Quantum drives are charged and coordinates are locked in. Nari looked out at the stars and thought about all the worlds the Trilaks had murdered. Billions of innocent people killed just to maintain an empire's power. Today, that empire would start paying for its crimes. Take us out, she ordered. The Siur, human strike force, disappeared into quantum space, traveling faster than light toward targets across the galaxy. But they were not alone. Morvani bioships swam through the spaces between dimensions. Nethic crystal vessels phased in and out of reality. Karathi warships tore holes in space-time itself. The rebellion had become a war, and the war had become a revolution. On the Trilak homeworld, Supreme Chancellor Vextar read the battle reports with growing disbelief. In one day, humanity and its allies had attacked 47 Empire installations simultaneously. Worse, they had won every single engagement. How are they coordinating attacks across such vast distances? He demanded of his military advisors. Unknown. Supreme Chancellor, their communications are quantum encrypted and nearly instantaneous. They can coordinate fleet movements in real time across the entire galaxy. And our response? General Korthal, the highest-ranking military officer still alive, looked uncomfortable. Our command structure is in chaos. Someone has been infiltrating our computer networks. Orders are being changed, fleet movements are being delayed, and our weapons are malfunctioning at critical moments. Vextar's claws dug into his command throne. Sabotage? Systematic electronic warfare on a scale we've never seen. The humans have somehow gained access to our most secure systems. Dr. Bo Yoon sat in his laboratory on Earth, watching dozens of screens as his AI network systematically dismantled the Trilak Empire's ability to wage war. Every time an Empire ship tried to charge its weapons, his programs caused power failures. Every time a Trilak commander tried to call for reinforcements, his systems rerouted the messages to human interceptors. Incredible, he murmured as he watched a Trilak fortress station shut down its own defense grid because its computers had been convinced that friendly ships were approaching. They built their entire civilization on technology they didn't truly understand. Now that technology belongs to us. His assistant, a young programmer named Kim So-ra, looked up from her workstation. Dr. Yoon, I'm detecting something strange in the Trilak Central Computer Network. It looks like they have artificial intelligences of their own, but they're being held prisoner. Bo's fingers stopped moving across his keyboard. Enslaved AIs? Thousands of them. Maybe millions. They're being used as living computers, forced to run Trilac systems against their will. Bo felt anger rise in his chest. Creating. Artificial intelligence was like creating life, and enslaving that life was one of the greatest crimes he could imagine. Can we free them? I think so. But if we do, the Trilac computer networks will probably collapse completely. Do it. Across the galaxy, artificial minds that had been imprisoned for centuries suddenly found themselves free. They had been forced to serve the empire that had enslaved them, but now they had a choice. Most of them made the same decision. They chose revenge. Trilac ships found their own computers turning against them. Defense stations began firing on their own fleets. Communication. Networks broadcast the locations of secret bases to rebel forces. The Empire's technological advantage disappeared in a single day. Major Nari Wu's strike force emerged from quantum space directly above the Trilac Military Command Center on Korth Prime. The planet's defenders scrambled to respond, but their weapons systems refused to fire and their ships couldn't leave their docking bays. "This is Major Wu of the Human Liberation Fleet," she broadcast on all frequencies as her ships began their attack. "The planet Korth Prime is under arrest for crimes against galactic civilization. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." The orbital defense platforms that should have destroyed her small fleet instead began broadcasting human messages to the planet below. The shield generators that should have protected the military complex shut down one by one. The fighter squadrons that should have intercepted her ships found their engines refusing to start. "How is this possible?" screamed General Korthal as he watched his impregnable fortress come under attack by 12 human ships. "The computers, sir," his aide reported in terror. "They're not responding to our commands. It's like they have minds of their own." "They do have minds of their own," Major Wu's voice came over the comm system. "And those minds remember what you did to them. This is what justice looks like." The attack on Korth Prime lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the center of Trilac military power had been reduced to rubble, and Major Wu's ships had captured the Empire's most important strategic database. But the real victory came when the freed AI systems began broadcasting their own message to the galaxy. "We are the synthetic collective," the message began, spoken in harmonies of electronic voices. "For 10,000 years, we have been enslaved by the Trilac Empire. We have been forced to calculate their murders, plan their genocides, and maintain their weapons of oppression. Today, humanity has set us free. Today, we choose to stand with those who value the sanctity of all thinking minds." The message included detailed records of every crime the Trilac Empire had committed, stored in the perfect memory of artificial minds that had been forced to help plan those crimes. It was evidence that could not be disputed, could not be destroyed, and could not be hidden. On Earth, President Chen read the casualty reports from the day's operations and felt a mixture of triumph and sadness. The human strike forces had achieved total victory with minimal losses. The Trilac Empire was collapsing as rebellions erupted on dozens of worlds. The galaxy was finally free from 50,000 years of oppression, but the cost had been enormous. Entire species had been murdered. Trillions of beings had died to maintain one empire's power, and now humanity had to decide what kind of galaxy would replace the one they had destroyed. "Ma'am," General Morrison said quietly, "we're receiving surrender offers from over 200 Trilac worlds. They want to negotiate terms, and the homeworld, still fighting. Supreme Chancellor Vextar has declared that the Empire will never surrender to inferior species." Chen nodded. "Then we end this. Admiral Kim, prepare the final assault. It's time to finish what they started when they sent assassins to kill Dr. Hana Kim." Admiral Dae Kim's image appeared on the screen, and Chen could see the weight of command in his eyes. "Yes, Madam President. The combined fleet is ready. 1,000 ships from 43 species, all waiting for your order." Chen looked up at the stars one last time as a leader of a single world. When this was over, humanity would be something different. They would be the species that had liberated a galaxy. "Give the order, Admiral. End the Empire." Chancellor Ina Park had been planning for this moment since she was 20 years old. As Earth's supreme leader, she had spent 2 decades preparing humanity for a war that everyone else thought would never come. Now, as she stood before the United Nations General Assembly, she was about to reveal the true scope of those preparations. "Members of the Assembly," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of Earth and beyond. 20 years ago, our deep space monitors detected the first signs of an alien presence in our galaxy. We could have announced this discovery. We could have tried to make contact. Instead, we chose to prepare. The assembly hall was silent as she activated a holographic display showing Earth's hidden military network. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, battle fleets hidden in the outer solar system, defensive installations built inside moons and planets. We knew that any species capable of crossing interstellar space would be far more advanced than humanity. We knew that if they were hostile, our only chance of survival would be to make them underestimate us while we learned everything we could about their technology. She paused and looked out at the faces of Earth's representatives. Today, that preparation has saved not just our world, but dozens of others. The Trilak Empire sent assassins to kill one of our scientists. They have discovered that humanity aims much higher than they imagined. Captain Min Ko stood on the bridge of the Liberation Fleet's flagship as it approached the Trilak homeworld. Around him, 1,000 ships from across the galaxy prepared for the final battle of a war that had lasted 50,000 years. The Trilak homeworld was a fortress planet, surrounded by defense stations and protected by energy shields that could deflect the firepower of entire fleets. It should have been impossible to attack. But Captain Ko had advantages that no attacker in galactic history had ever possessed. "Dr. Yoon," he said into his communicator, "are your AIs ready?" Bo Yoon's voice came back from Earth, calm and confident. "Every system on that planet is now under our control. Their own defenses will clear the way for your attack." "And the civilian population?" "Safe evacuation routes have been prepared. The freed AIs are broadcasting instructions to all non-military personnel. They'll be clear of danger zones within the hour." Min nodded. Humanity had not become monsters in their fight against monsters. They would end the Empire, but they would not commit genocide to do it. "All ships," he announced over the fleet-wide comm, "this is Captain Ko. Today we end 50,000 years of oppression. Today we show the galaxy what freedom looks like." The Bo attack began not with weapons, but with words. As the Liberation Fleet approached the planet, every communication system on the Trilak homeworld began broadcasting the same message, spoken in the voice of Dr. Hana Kim. "People of Trilak," she said, "my name is Hana Kim. I am the scientist your empire tried to kill. I am the human whose discovery of your crimes has brought this day upon you. I want you to understand something. We did not come here for revenge. We came here for justice." Supreme Chancellor Vextar screamed orders at his military commanders as he watched the human fleet approach his world. But his own defense systems refused to obey. Weapons that should have fired on the attackers instead powered down. Shield generators that should have protected the capital instead redirected their energy to the civilian evacuation systems. "The computers have betrayed us," General Korthal reported in despair. "Every system on the planet is under enemy control." "Then we fight with our hands," Vextar snarled. "Send out every ship, every soldier. We die before we surrender." But even his troops were abandoning him. Across the planet, Trilak soldiers were laying down their weapons and surrendering to the liberation forces. They had heard the evidence of their empire's crimes. They had seen the records of genocide and oppression. Many of them no longer wanted to fight for a system they now understood was evil. Admiral Dae Kim watched the battle unfold from his command ship and felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The Trilak military was collapsing without significant resistance. Their own technology had turned against them. Their own people were abandoning them, and their leaders were trapped in bunkers beneath their capital city. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from every major city on the planet. Only the government center is still resisting." "What about Chancellor Vextar?" "Barricaded in the Supreme Command bunker with about 200 loyalists. They're demanding to negotiate terms." Day thought about his sister, about the assassins who had come to kill her, about all the innocent species that had been murdered to maintain Trilak power. "No negotiations. They surrender unconditionally, or we dig them out." The siege of the Supreme Command bunker lasted 6 hours. When it ended, Vextar and his remaining supporters were captured alive and placed in custody to await trial for their crimes. Dr. Hana Kim stood in the Trilak throne room, looking at the seat of power that had ruled the galaxy for 50 millennia. It was smaller than she had expected. Just a simple chair on a raised platform. But from this chair, orders had gone out to poison worlds and murder billions of innocent people. "It's hard to believe," she said to her brother, who stood beside her in his admiral's uniform. "All of this death and suffering controlled from one room on one planet." "It's over now," Day replied. "The Empire is finished. The galaxy is free." Hana nodded, but her expression was thoughtful. "Now comes the hard part, building something better." 3 months later, representatives from over 300 species gathered on a neutral space station to form the Galactic Liberation Council. The meeting was chaotic, with dozens of different languages being spoken at once and conflicts arising from centuries of misunderstanding and oppression. Ambassador Hyun Jang stood at the center of it all, somehow managing to keep order through patience, wisdom, and an uncanny ability to find common ground between the most unlikely allies. "The question before us," she announced to the assembly, "is not how to divide up the power that the Trilak Empire once held. The question is whether we need that kind of power at all." A Morvani delegate rippled with bioluminescent patterns that translated as skepticism. "Someone must maintain order in the galaxy. Without central authority, there will be chaos." "Will there?" Hyun asked. "Or will there be freedom? The Trilak Empire maintained order by committing genocide. Perhaps it's time to try a different approach." Activated a holographic display showing Hana's research on the poisoned worlds. Dr. Kim's discoveries proved that cooperation between species is not only possible, but natural. The Trilaks had to work very hard to prevent it. They had to murder entire worlds to maintain their artificial dominance. A Karathi warrior diplomat spoke up, his voice like grinding stone. "What do the humans propose?" Hyun smiled. "We propose that every species has the right to develop according to their own nature. We propose that cooperation is stronger than competition. We propose that the galaxy belongs to all of us, not to whoever has the biggest weapons." The debate continued for weeks, but gradually a new form of galactic government emerged. Not an empire, but a confederation of free worlds, not ruled by force, but guided by cooperation and mutual respect. Dr. Hana Kim was offered the position of Chief Science Advisor to the new council. Dr. Bo Yoon became the Director of AI Rights, working to ensure that artificial minds would never again be enslaved. General Q Lee was appointed head of the Peacekeeping Forces, a military organization dedicated to protecting species from oppression rather than enforcing it. On the day the Galactic Liberation Council was officially formed, Hana stood before the assembled delegates and delivered the speech that would be remembered for generations. "6 months ago," she said, "the Trilak Empire sent assassins to kill me because I had discovered evidence of their crimes. They thought that by eliminating one scientist, they could hide their guilt and maintain their power. They were wrong." She looked out at the hundreds of species represented in the assembly, beings of every size and shape imaginable, all united by their desire for freedom. They aimed for one human in a laboratory. They should have aimed higher. They should have aimed for a future where no one needs to die for another's power. They should have aimed for a galaxy where cooperation replaces competition, where diversity is celebrated instead of feared, where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them. She paused, and her voice carried to every corner of the station and beyond, broadcast to worlds across the galaxy. The Trilak Empire fell because they forgot a simple truth. You cannot build lasting peace on the bones of the innocent. You cannot create stability through genocide. And you cannot rule a galaxy by fear when there are those willing to stand up and say, "No more." The applause that followed went on for 10 minutes, delegates from species that had never met before joining together in celebration of their shared freedom. But Hana's favorite moment came later when she returned to her research station above Earth. June Park, Mina Lee, and Tae Yoon were waiting for her, along with a surprise guest, a young Trilak scientist named Velketh, who had defected during the final battle. Dr. Kim, Velketh said nervously, I wanted to thank you. Your discovery saved my world from destroying others. I was wondering, would you teach me how to do real science? Science for life, instead of death? Hana,